What up? How's everybody doing tonight? So I'm going to add Nick in. Alright, cool. How do I get out of this? Hold up. That's good. That's all I need. Alright, what's up? How you doing, Letty? Or Letta? Lita? Is it Lita? Is that right? Sorry if I get it wrong. What up, Nick? A pleasure to meet you. Thank you for joining our group. Let me add Nick on. Add Nick. Camera. Alright, so Lita is it? Okay. Sweet. Pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for being in the group. It's always a blessing having people. Alright, so I'm trying to get Nick on live right now. What up, Ryan? Ryan's a good friend of mine. Good guy. Fellow Mason as well. Alright. Approve. Alright, Nick, I'm trying to get you on, man. I'm not sure how all this works. It says I can bring Victoria on camera, but I don't see where bring Nick on camera. All right, so we got some cool topics to go over tonight. We're going to talk about the dark night of the soul. Uh, so we're going to start pretty shallow right now. What up?
What's up, y'all?
How's it going, bro?
I couldn't figure out how to join. It said I had to turn my phone to get on here.
I see. So what's been up, man?
I've been good, man. Today's been kind of weird, but you know.
I feel that. What up, Adrian? How you doing, brother? What up, Sony? Damn, I like doing lives on here better than my personal lives. Yeah, everybody here is popping, man. I like seeing all these names. Sometimes on my personal lives, I'll be seeing some weird ass people pop up. You know, like the random people, you don't really expect them to jump on your live, and then you'll see them pop up on your live. You're like, okay, I guess I'm talking to you too. All right. Was it really? all these people are cool as fuck. All right.
Yeah, we have a bit more of a intimate setting here. It's more. I feel that. All right,
Oh yeah,
cool.
yeah. I'm
So
not in because I'm not in the light. I gotta stand in the light. Oh, there's no light out here in the darkness. Ah.
there is
All
light in the
right. So
darkness.
there's right here. I found it. There we go. There we go. All right. So, boom. That's better. All right. So let's get into what is this group all about? It's kind of a weird group, right?
Hey,
Kind of
yoga.
a weird not the people in the group, but kind of the energy in the group. So Nick, would you mind explaining kind of like what you see going on in the group and kind of what is kind of transpiring?
Yeah, so I can see there's a lot of really unique people here. There's a lot of empaths here. I can see that. And Heyoka, Heyoka was a Native American Indian who basically felt the feelings of everyone in the tribe, and his job was to basically polarize what everybody else was doing. So he would do the opposite of what everybody else was doing, and that's like the whole foundation of Heyoka is telling our unique story and owning that and shining light on our shadows, shining light on what we fear and completely owning who we are and sharing our hearts and opening ourselves with the group and just transmuting um, who we think we are into who we truly are, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
So Yeah, and I think it's beautiful that everyone in the group is just opening up, sharing. It can be really hard to just open yourself up with people. It's being super vulnerable. But you know, we made this sacred space for you guys, and it's super safe. So, and it's amazing to me seeing everyone open, sharing their stories because it's medicine. It's medicine sharing your story because, especially in a safe space, um, I know that's been a lot of my healing journey is really sharing that and owning those stories, owning that darkness.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's amazing how whenever you think about your story, right, and you like start putting it on paper or you start telling other people about it, like it's almost like you're teaching yourself how to relive these things. Like you're teaching yourself how to change the perspective of the story. Like you're what's the word for it? You're reframing as you type. So as you explain it in your mind, you're like reframing it. You're like, hey, what if this means this? Or what if this situation happened because of this? So it's beautiful because you're telling yourself, even though you're telling the story, you're telling it in a different way that's more liberating.
Yeah, exactly. It's like rewriting your story. Completely rewriting it from a different space, from a loving space. Um, it's like, I mean, we all have stories, obviously, and it's like how we see our stories, how we see where we came from, how we see ourselves completely transforms how we are and how the world responds to who we are. So yeah, that's totally what this whole vision of Heyoka is all about is doing that. But yeah,
Yeah, and it's
that's
like finding it. Well, and it leads right into the dark night of the soul, right? Because it's like finding your identity again, right? Because I think the hardest part about telling your story is like you're redefining yourself at the same time, because that story was a crucial cornerstone in your development. Now that you're retelling it, you're redefining the ego. You're redefining how you see yourself in the world in relation to the world. So it is an alchemical process, kind of like what Ryan's talking about. When you tell your story, it is an alchemical process. You are breaking down superfluous parts of stone that you keep, built up in your body. You're breaking those down and you're rejuvenating them and you're recreating them.
exactly. Yeah, and like the dark night of the soul to me, I feel like we all go through the dark night of soul, and certain parts is certain phases of our lives will go through that, and yeah, I feel like going through that phase is really just allowing ourselves to really love ourselves. How deep can we truly love ourselves? How deep can we truly um, love ourselves more? How much love can we give ourselves? And to me, in my experience, the dark night of the soul has been um, a lot of built up emotion, a lot of built up trauma just stuck in the body, just like waiting to be released. And I know, for example, in 2017, just last year, I went through a huge dark night of the soul, and I didn't know what to do. Like, I couldn't even get out of bed. Um, Super depressed. Um, it was just terrible. It was really fucked up. But I had to go through that, and I have so much gratitude for that experience. And I also feel like we also go through, mid dark night of the souls, maybe for a day or two or so, and that's just more like a bigger step to our evolution to love and accept ourselves more, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So my the dark night of the soul I went through, the biggest one, the biggest breakdown I ever went through was when I was 18 and all my friends went off to college and everybody graduated and went off into these things. And I didn't. I dropped out of school. I never went to college. So when I saw the friends that I hung out with, I was like the party guy. And then when everybody left, I was no longer that person. Like I could no longer be the party guy. Everybody come to my house, hang out, party, drink.
Uh,
Everybody was gone, like living their lives. And when this happened, I fell into this like deep depression. Like I was drinking all the time. I remember one time me and my mom drank for like, it was like 24 hours straight. We were just drinking Jaeger bombs like constantly and until I passed out, like literally until I passed out. And it wasn't until I reframed who I was and I shifted directions, like my identity. I had to change my identity because my identity before was the party guy, hang out, Cal, the friend guy. Once everybody was gone, I was no longer that person. So that's kind of what Dark Night of the Soul, in
yeah.
my perspective, means to me. It's like the disintegration of ego that you built up, whether it was to protect yourself, whether it was to just be free in that moment. When that disintegrates, the most important part is to create a new one, like to rebuild the ego from the shattered pieces. Imagine it like this. It's kind of like if you're going through a chain link fence. When you go through that chain link fence, you're going to break off into pieces and then you reintegrate on the other side. And only the good parts are reintegrated. So like when you go through that chain link fence, all the shit is stuck on the fence and then the good part reintegrates into a new being.
I like that metaphor. That's beautiful. Well said.
So that's what
Yeah, that's
happened to me.
awesome.
So it wasn't until I became a trainer or like I had the vision of me being a trainer. I didn't even have to be a trainer. It was just me recreating that vision of who I was that I was able to overcome that depression. Because then I was like, okay, I'm no longer the party guy. Who am I? And then I started digging in myself. Well, what do I represent? Who I am as a person? Like, what's my values? What's my beliefs? What's my, because when you go through the dark night of the soul, it's not just like your clothes change, you know? It's not like you're like, I'm just going to be a country guy today and I was an emo guy. You know, it's not like that. It's like when you go through the dark night of the soul, your entire belief system gets rocked. So your entire, everything from the core of like what you believe gets rocked. And that's why it's so depressing because it's like you don't even know who you are. You don't even know what God, you don't even know God. You don't know nothing, reality. Like you lose everything. And that's the beautiful part because then you get to start from scratch. Then you're like, okay, so what do I love? and then and then you build out from what you love. You're like, what do I love? Well, I love, for me it was like I love working out. So I want to teach people how to work out. And then I just started from there and I built out from working out into, inspiring people, into running gyms, whatever the fuck. I built out from just working out. I was like, this is the one thing I love, I'm just going to stick with this. And then boom, I became a totally different person.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's perfect. Like, Dark Night of the Soul just completely just reshapes, reforms who we are. And yeah, it's just a matter of just releasing all that, releasing all the shit of who we thought we were and just recreating yourself. And did you go through that phase where it's like while you're or after you release all these identities that didn't serve you during that depression phase? I had like this other phase afterwards of just like super clarity, but didn't know what to do because I was so clear and it felt so good. It was
Yeah.
like a seed that didn't have sun yet. It was like buried in the soil without sunlight yet.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I went through that after the Dark Night of the Soul, of just bliss, happiness, because I just got rid of all this shit that I didn't need, that I didn't want. So it was good.
Well, it's like the primordial right? It's like the Buddhist teaching. It's like you expand, right? And then you get broken down, and then you go back to
Mm-hmm.
and then you're
Yeah.
in that kind of zen state, that kind of like that zen kind of state. Hold on, I gotta get away from the house. I'm waking up the kids. But yeah, then you're in that Zen state, just like you're talking about, where you're kind of just a seed in the ground, looking around and kind of wondering, what are you supposed to be now? Now you have all these visions. Now you're a seed. What kind of plant are you going to be? Oh, and I want to go back to this comment that Lita says. Um, Lita says, raising those vibration is like going through the fence. And she's 100% right. Because what happens is when you raise those vibrations, you have to go through the fence. you you have to go through the fence. There is no choice because the vibration of what you have is no longer serving what you currently are.
Yeah, I just want to add to that too. You know, as your vibration rises, things in your reality are going to look really weird because things are no longer going to resonate with the frequency that you're on now. And these things will come up. They might come, like the universe will test you. So, like, old patterns might come up, old people might come up, but it's just a repatterning for us to stay in that vibration, hold the ground. And it's like a test, right? So, I guess we get that. So, to test us to see if, wait, is this really what I want? Do I really, really want to go up here? So, yeah, it's just interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's 100% right, man. And then there are those tests, man, that would see if they can bring you back. Everybody, it always wants to bring you back, right? Like as you expand, like something wants to make you contract. Like, no, don't do that. Don't expand because then you're gonna make me expand, and I don't want to expand. I'm not ready to expand. Don't go.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And
Uh,
yeah, and that can be our friend, right? It's the mind. Like the mind always wants to keep us safe. It's always it goes back to ancient times. We still have that in our DNA of the mind wanting to keep us safe, right? Like we no longer have a tribe 50 miles away from us that wants to come and like kill us and steal our women and get our food and all that stuff. Like that no longer is here, but our monkey mind is what I like to call our mind that likes to protect us. It's still there in our evolution. So it's like loving the mind and just making friends with it and accepting it. Just say, hey, it's okay. It's okay. But I'm in control. Let the higher
yeah,
self be in
yeah,
control.
yeah. It's like that submission. It's like submitting and surrendering. That's the biggest part. Surrendering to the mind and allowing the higher self to speak through you. A lot of times we want to wrestle with the mind, and there's no point in wrestling because the higher self dominates everything. Your intuition dominates all planes of life. So, if you can listen to that, you get really far.
That that is very true, my friend. Listening to intuition.
Yep.
That takes a lot of self-love to listen to that.
Yep.
Takes a lot of trust in self, higher self, universe, God. Yeah,
Well, and that
because it can
self,
be.
I didn't mean to interrupt. You can keep
Oh
going.
no, you're good. I mean, it can be scary, because intuition speaks to us through our feelings and what we most desire in our hearts. And then at the same time, we have the mind that's saying, "Oh no, it's not safe. Don't do that. Don't go there." It's trying to pull you away. But by following our intuition, it's like the intuition is sitting on a mountaintop, right? And then the mind is just right here in the valley. The intuition knows everything, knows exactly what you want, and it's completely guiding you to exactly what you want, your bliss, your most desires. And to me, surrendering is an act of self-love because you're surrendering to what you truly want by allowing yourself to feel that which is coming through. And that's the whole balance between the mind and the soul is um, allowing yourself to be loved, receive. It's that perfect exchange.
Yep. And the thing about the intuition, just so we can get clear, is like the intuition doesn't necessarily speak in words like the mind does. So, like, the monkey mind's very adamant about speaking in a language that you're very familiar with, right? So, like, the monkey mind, it'll tell you exactly what you want to hear. It'll speak to you in the rap song you're listening to. But the intuition speaks more in sensation. So it speaks more in feeling. It speaks more in, in your heart, in your gut, and it's like identifying these sensations and knowing, what they're trying to tell you.
Right, right. Yeah, and there's so that could be like another topic, but there's a whole like line of different intuitions, right? And the soul speaks to everyone in their own unique, special way, and only the individual can sense and discern that. But there are different types of intuition. But yeah, that totally resonates. The intuition is going to speak much, much differently from the way the mind will. And it's super clear on how, what the difference is. It might be a little subtle, but it's like exercising that muscle, that intuitive muscle, that knowing to discern what's real and what's not, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. But
yeah.
yeah, so Dark Night of the Soul, how do we, so I guess like, so, I mean, we all go through the Dark Night of the Soul, but what's the best way to get out of it, right? What's the best way to get out of it? Um, because it can be really hard. It can be really hard. I totally feel that. I think that just it takes a lot of listening to yourself and what you truly want, and then just letting go of all the things that you don't want. And I know when uh, going through the dark night of the soul, it can be really difficult to actually know what you want, right? Um, so the best thing to do is to do what you love, right? Being in nature.
Well, here's the thing. I just want to add on top. So it
Yeah.
ends where it begins. So, in any type of ego matter to where you feel like you've lost everything, you see this in movies all the time, right? So, like the character goes out, he goes to face this demon or monster, and then he gets destroyed. And then he doesn't know why he gets destroyed, but he has to go back to his hometown and his roots. And he has to rediscover who he is in order to come back, the great hero, in order to overcome that monster again. So a lot of the Dark Night of the Soul is going back to where it all began. Where did that darkness begin? Where did that inner
Mm.
trauma begin? And then that's where you find that love. That's where you find
Mm-hmm.
that who you really are is within that beginning, those roots. Those roots are who you are. It's in your roots. It's not in the future. It's in who you are, your essence. That if you can find your essence by traveling back through your past and see, what did you love as a child? What did you love, growing up? What brought you the most amount of joy? What brought you peace? Those things that we may maybe take for granted now, if we can look back at them, we can learn from those past experiences and travel back to our past and then bring them to the present. And that's a lot of what overcoming that dark night of the soul is. It's traveling back to that root, like, who am I? Going back to my beginning and standing up for that and being that and owning that shit.
That is wisdom. Yeah. Um, yeah, that's absolutely right. It's like I like to call it with inner child healing is what I use. Yeah, going back to that source of who you are. Children are, they're born pure here, and um, society projects onto a lot of beliefs, a lot of different energies. children are like sponges. It's going back to who you are, as in your essence of who you are. That's absolutely right. It's perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what brought me joy. And the more I live today, the more I realize I was living today, you know, 20 years ago. You know, how I feel today, I was living that same life when I was a kid, a child. And I'm bringing back those experiences as a child to my present now. And I'm starting to realize like these talents and these skills that I maybe didn't really pay attention to as a teenager, as a young adult. And now I'm starting to revisit these and starting to see like maybe this is who I am. Maybe I always was who I am.
Yep. And that's another thing I want to add to that. Um, there's a gift in every shadow. Yeah, deep down into your darkness, that dishonoring, that shame, that self-hatred, that unlove, that disabandonment, deep down inside that, there's gifts. There's the light. There's the essence of who you are and why you're here and what you radiate out into the world. There's, like, for example, um, one of my biggest shadows is dishonoring myself. Like every time I would want something, I wouldn't listen to myself, so I would dishonor myself for not giving myself exactly that, or I would dishonor myself for not speaking my truth, right? So, and the gift would be to speaking my truth, giving myself exactly what I want. And by doing that, by helping myself and loving myself, I'm also loving everybody and I'm shining for everybody to see and I'm helping everybody with that, right? So there is a gift in every shadow, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
Um,
no, that's real talk.
yeah, totally.
Yeah, but yeah, man, I think that's good for tonight, dude. Do you have anything else you want to throw in there?
Um, no, unless somebody has a question or anything they want to
Yeah,
share.
yeah. If anybody has any questions, throw them in.
If anyone wants to share something or ask something, um, it's awesome that everyone's here sharing.
Oh, wait, I'm looking at some of these comments. Is it possible to mistake the higher self for the narcissistic ego? Um,
Is
yeah,
it
that's a very
possible?
common.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
very
that's
common. So I don't know who that was that asked, but um, connecting to your higher self is it's very subtle. So so discerning between your higher self and your narcissistic ego, is that was it.
yeah,
So the higher self, whatever's coming through, it'll always be balanced. It'll always feel good, and it'll always come from a space of love, and it'll always spark you up. The narcissistic ego will, I'm getting, it'll come from a space of defending because it has to defend itself, or it'll feel heavier, if that makes sense. Um, I hope that makes sense.
yeah. No, that makes sense. It does. It does
I
defend
think,
itself because yeah, that,
yeah, I think I might do a higher self meditation in this group for everyone. I might have to do that.
I think that's a great
That'd be
idea.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Now, what I've always noticed between the narcissistic ego and the higher self is the higher self's natural inclination is to give, right? So, like the
Totally.
higher self always wants to give love. It always wants to give, art. It always wants to give creation. It always wants to create. That's the higher self. It's always giving. The narcissistic ego is always taking. It's always sucking.
Mm.
It's always grasping for energy. Like the narcissistic ego feeds off of energy of others and other things. A higher self generates its own energy and it like blossoms.
Hmm.
It's like a flower blossoming. The narcissistic ego is continually trying to take. The higher self is continually trying to give in its relation. So like even when we created Heyoka, this was not anything we're trying to get from anybody. We're trying to give something that's not there. We're trying to provide something that that's not in the internet atmosphere. You know.
There is a revolution going on. Yeah, that's totally. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's the revolution. The Heyokas.
Well, channel. Hold on, I got a message. Hold on. It's coming in. That's where that revolution thing came from. I was just saying. You just it just popped in
What?
your mind. It was just like I was just saying where you talked about the revolution. It just like you just it's like a message just came in. Oh, there's a revolution going on. Hold on. Oh wait, back to the broadcast. Anyways. Just one of those.
Oh man.
I feel that. I feel that. It's okay. I feel that. I feel the same
Yeah,
way. That's why we do this, right?
that
You
is why
know?
we are here.
Viva la revolution. All
Yeah, we
right.
are the
Well,
revolution. The human
we,
evolution of consciousness is the revolution.
yeah, that's it. Breaking free from the wheels of reincarnation. Are you guys ready? Huh? I just
Breaking
had to throw
free.
that in there.
Yeah.
From the wheels of reincarnation. No,
You know,
no longer paying our eternal debts and ascending in this world, not in the next.
no more fear.
No more fear.
No more fear.
No more self-hate. No more limitation. All
Yeah.
that goes.
Self-hate is heavy.
Yeah, it is.
I used to hate myself.
Yeah, it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to get past. It really is. But I tell you what, it takes hate to find love, right? It takes these emotions to find the polarities. It takes knowing one to know the other. And if you haven't experienced hate, then you haven't experienced love.
Totally true, my friend. Grateful.
But but yeah, very grateful. Makes you very grateful to be alive. Um, But hey, and I just want to throw on top. So on top of this whole group, eventually, just so you guys know, like what we plan on doing is we're eventually going to get everybody together in like a physical setting. We'll have like a cabin somewhere. We'll have like a fire. We'll be singing songs, telling stories. We're going to be, hanging out as a real group and, doing it like the shamans, man, and doing it back in times and just bringing out these things and kind of evolving together, doing meditations, dances, all kinds of fun stuff. So,
It's exciting.
yeah,
Bringing
we're
the
in
ancient
H-Town.
times back.
Yeah. Bringing the ancient times, it's the archaic revival.
Exactly.
But that's it. Anybody got any more questions? No? You got anything you want to add, Nick?
I think I'm good. I think that was great.
All right, brother.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you have a good night, man.
All right, dude. Yeah. All right, y'all. Have a good night.
All right, blessings.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, I love you guys. Peace.
Peace.